In a world plagued by generic noise, one goblin can save us all.
Hey gang, just to let you know, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com and originalmagicart.store. Using the code gets you 10% off orders $10 or more, and you get to help out the channel at the same time. Today's game finds us back at Platinum Star Games, and I'm playing the Pope of Poubelle, which is French for garbage, Daretti, keeping 2 mountains, Darksteel Citadel, Thran Temporal Gateway, Thran Dynamo, Shimmermere, and Kuldrotha Forgemaster. John is playing the dynamic duo of Firesong and Sunspeaker, and he keeps Reforged the Soul, Darksteel Plate, Mountain, Plains, Maze of Ith, and Dualcaster Mage. Steve is playing the Daimyo of Dragons, the Ur-Dragon, keeping Temple Garden, Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, Kindred Dominance, Dragon Master Outcast, Sunscorch Regent, Mystic Monastery, and Arcane Sanctum. And last but not least, we have Devin, who's new to the channel and joining us, playing his Exile Tribal deck with Anafenza at the helm. He keeps a Swamp, Polluted Delta, Flooded Strand, Cultivate, Into the Wilds, Karn Liberated, and Sylvan Reclamation. Steve wins the die roll and starts us off. Steve plays a tap Mystic Monastery, passing. I play Darksteel Citadel, and I pass. Devin plays a Polluted Delta, cracking it to find a land and passing. John plays a mountain and passes. Steve plays a tapped Sheltered Thicket, and we see the Dragon Master Outcast from his opener hit the field. I play a mountain and pass my turn. Devin plays a Flooded Strand and cracks it to go and find a land, passing. John plays a Plains and passes. Steve plays an Arcane Sanctum, which comes in tapped and passes to me. I play a mountain and I pass my turn. Devin plays a Swamp and brings out Anafenza before passing to John. John plays another mountain and passes. Steve plays a Temple Garden, untapped, taking 2. He casts a Sunscorched Regent, and with the dragon on the stack, I flash in a Shimmermere, and the dragon resolves, and Steve passes to me. I play a mountain, and I pass to Devin. Devin plays a Forest, and casts Into the Wilds. Steve gains 1 life and puts a +1/+1 counter on his Sunscorched Regent, and we pass to John. John plays a Plains and passes turn. Steve plays a Stomping Ground, taking 2 more to have it come in untapped. He then casts Lathliss in his main phase and it resolves. Moving to combat, Steve hits Devin for 5. Steve passes, and waiting until the last moment, I flash in Thran Temporal Gateway. Steve gains 1 life and puts another +1/+1 counter on his Sunscorched Regent. I draw for turn, and with no land to play, pass. Devin hits a land from his Into the Wilds trigger and puts it onto the field. He plays a Terramorphic Expanse and cracks it to find a Plains in his main phase. We then see a Scavenger Ooze hit the field, and Steve misses the Regent trigger unfortunately. John plays a Maze of Ith and passes. Steve draws and drops an Overgrown Tomb, having it come in untapped and taking 2 more. He then casts a Dragon Lord's Servant, reducing the total cost of any dragon he casts. He moves to combat and swings the Regent at me for 7 and Lathliss at John. Before damage, John untaps the Dragoness from combat with his Maze of Ith. Steve is then finished, and at the end of turn I use my Gateway to put out Thran Dynamo. I play a mountain for my turn and once more activate the Gateway to bring out Ugin for only 4 mana. I then downtick the legendary Dragon Planeswalker to 1, exiling all permanents that have a color that costs 6 or less from the field. I then cast Karn, Scion of Urza, upticking the Walker to reveal 2 and have my opponents pick a card to give to me. Steve decides to give me a mountain and would like to keep my beautiful Combustible Gearhulk, but thankfully it doesn't work like that. Moving to combat, I hit John for 2 with the Shimmermere. At the end of my turn, Devin uses Anguished Unmaking to exile Karn, and John likes this so much, he makes his own copy of the spell with a Dualcaster Mage, and hits my Gateway. They both lose 3 life, while I exile 2 cards. Devin plays Cultivate in his main phase, grabbing a basic for the field and 1 for his hand. He plays the basic, and then casts Ravenous Slime, passing to John. John draws, and drops a mountain. He swings his Dualcaster Mage and takes out Ugin before passing to Steve. Steve counts up his mana and plays a tapped Breeding Pool before passing. I play a mountain, and I cast Daretti. I then uptick him, and John flashes in an Alms Collector, making it very clear to me that I should only discard 1 card and draw 1 card. I then pass to Devin. Devon draws and plays Pharika, God of Affliction in his main phase, making his tribal exile very clear. John plays a Plains and passes. Steve draws and casts Udvara Hellkite in his main phase. At the end of turn, I flash in Mirrorworks. I uptick Daretti in my main phase, discarding Alhamrat's Archive and drawing 1. I then pass. At the end of my turn, Devon exiles my Kuldrotha Forgemaster with Pharika, and I get a Snake Enchantment token. Devon draws for turn, and then passes to John. John plays a Mountain and casts Felwar Stone before passing to Steve. Steve plays a Canyon Slough as land for turn, and swings his Udvara Hellkite at Daretti. He gets a Dragon token from the swing, and Daretti loses 6 loyalty counters. Steve then passes, and I resolve Mindslaver, which is quickly exiled once I pass priority to Devon, who exiles it and one of the snakes with Sylvan Reclamation. I cast Gamble in my main phase to go and find a card. We then roll for the discard, and Saheeli's Directive goes to my yard, which is the card that I tutored for. Great. I then uptick Daretti, discarding the Blightsteel Colossus I have in hand. With the shuffle trigger on the stack, Devon exiles the Blightsteel with Pharika's ability. I get a snake, and I then play Buried Ruin after drawing, and pass. Devon casts his own card in his main phase, and this time Karn Liberated hits the field, and he downticks the Walker to exile the Hellkite, passing to John. John plays a Command Tower, and passes. Steve plays a tapped Seaside Citadel, and swings the Dragon token at Karn to take him out. He passes to me, and at the end of turn I flash in Nevernjal's Disc. I pop the disc in my main phase, and we're pretty sure the Ooze exiled all the creatures. I then uptick Daretti to discard a Planar Bridge and draw a card. I then cast Scrap Mastery to bring back all of the artifacts to the field, and I pass to Devon. Devon plays a Johnny Anealine in his main phase, upticking the Walker to reveal the top 3 cards, and he gets to put 2 creatures into his hand. He casts one of them, the Courser of Krufix, and plays a land, gaining 1 life, and he passes turn. For John's turn, he casts an invocation version of Austere Command in his main phase, and chooses to blow up all enchantments and all artifacts. With everything getting destroyed, he then passes to Steve. Steve casts a Dragonspeaker Shaman, who sadly has no one to speak to, and he has to pass turn. I uptick Daretti in my main phase, discarding 2 and drawing 2. I then cast a Mind Stone and have to pass to Devon. Devon upticks a Johnny once more, hitting 2 more creatures before playing an Urborg in his main phase as his land for turn. We then see the creatures, Dryad Militant and Lord of the Void hit the field, with Exile Abound. John draws and passes, which I can't tell if it's a good or a bad thing. Steve draws for turn and casts a Wayfarer's Bauble. He then brings out the Ur-Dragon and drops a Bajuka Bog, exiling his own graveyard because he doesn't want to hit mine. At the end of his turn, I crack my Mind Stone to draw a card. I cast a Mirror Battlesphere in my main phase, getting 4 mirrors as it enters the field. I then uptick Daretti, discarding a card and drawing 1, and passing to Devon. Devon upticks his Ajani and whiffs, bottoming the cards and playing a Verdant Catacomb for his turn. He cracks it, taking 1, to go and find Canopy Vista and puts it onto the field untapped. We then see an Ulamog hit the stack, and Devon exiles the Ur-Dragon and my Battlesphere. Moving to combat, Pharika comes at me while the Lord of the Void goes at Steve. I block the God with a Mirror token, and Steve takes the hit for 7. He then exiles the top 7 cards, and strangely enough, Devon doesn't hit 1 creature. John casts Reforge the Soul in his main phase, knowing that what Devon's sitting on in his hand is pretty good. We all then discard our hands and draw 7. And John plays a Tapa Seiju. He then casts a Soul Ring and passes to Steve. Steve plays an Exotic Orchard for his land for turn, and brings out Dragonlord Silumgar. He steals the Ulamog, which is the right choice in my opinion, and then drops Mirari's Wake. Steve then casts Lightning Greaves, putting them onto Silumgar. He swings the dragon at Devon for 3. And in his second main phase, Steve casts Pillars of Origins, naming dragons as it enters. I draw for turn and play a mountain. I then cast Chandra, Torch of Defiance, and uptick her to exile a card. It's Sculpting Steel, and I decide to leave it in exile, dealing 2 to my opponents. I then uptick Daretti to 11, discarding 2 and drawing 2. We then see Mirage Mirror hit the field, and I pass. At the end of turn, Devon exiles a creature card from his graveyard to make a Snake token with Pharika. Devon plays a Marsh Flats, cracking it and taking 1 to go and find a Temple Garden. He then asks to see our exile piles, which is a bit of a strange request. Devon then cracks his scavenger grounds and exiles all graveyards. We then see the newest iteration of Kaya hit the field, and Devon then uses a Johnny's -9 to put 5 counters onto Kaya and 5 +1/+1 counters onto all the creatures he controls, and I start to have a sneaking suspicion of what's to come. Moving to combat, Devon swings his Lord of the Void at me for 12, and he hits a duplicate from the ability from my library. He has it come in and exiles his own Ulamog. In his second main phase, Devon then downticks Kaya and finishes me off with her -5 ability, which is surprisingly strong in his deck. I die, and Devon gains 33 life. Devon then casts Council's Judgment, naming Mirari's Wake, and not wanting to give him any more value, John and Steve also name the Wake. For John's turn, he casts Firesong and Sunspeaker in his main phase, passing. Steve draws and casts Steel Hellkite for only 3. He moves the Greaves on over to it and swings it at Devon for 5. With the Steel Hellkite connecting, Steve pays enough to force Devon to destroy the Lord of the Void. In his second main phase, Steve then cracks the Wayfarer's Bauble to find a basic, and at the end of turn, Devon exiles his Lord of the Void to make another snake with Farika. Devon upticks a Johnny once more in his main phase, keeping Teysa, Ghost Envoy, and Archon of Justice. He then plays a Plains and casts Luminate Primordial, exiling Firesong and Sunspeaker, and Steve's Dragonlord Silumgar. John and Steve gain 4 and 3 life respectively, and Devon then casts Kalitas and moves to combat. He swings everything at Steve, who blocks Farika, but still loses 20 life from the rest. John plays a Battlefield Forge as land for turn, and recasts his commander, or is it commanders. We then see Breath of Jargaz kicked, dealing 4 to each creature without flying, and each player. This hits 9 things, and John gains 36 life, and yet only 1 snake dies. Steve plays a Crumbling Necropolis as his land for turn, and moves to combat. He's drawn absolutely nothing, and he swings the Hellkite at Devon, pumping it enough times to make it deal 11 damage, and he passes. Devon downticks a Johnny in his main phase to basically swords to plowshares John's Firesong and Sunspeaker, giving him 4 life as he exiles the creature. He then upticks Kaya, but doesn't have a target to exile, and he casts Fiend of Shadows. Moving to combat, Devon swings 1 snake at Steve to take him out, and the rest at John. John uses his maze to untap Farika, but still takes 18. In his second main phase, Devon then casts Anafenza and passes to John. John casts a Stuffy Doll in his main phase, and names, you guessed it, Devon before passing. Devon draws and upticks a Johnny, hitting what looks to be 3 creatures. He casts a Worldbreaker that he just put to hand with a Johnny, and with the on-cast ability on the stack, John casts Inferno. John and Devon then take 6 from the Inferno, and all the creatures on the board take 6 as well, which has Stuffy Doll do another 6 to Devon. They then resolve the Worldbreaker ability, and exiles Stuffy Doll. Devon then upticks Kaya to exile nothing, and he casts Skyshroud Claims to find 2 forests, putting them into the field. Moving to combat, Devon swings at John, who uses the maze to untap Farika and only takes 4. John casts Swiftfoot Boots in his main phase and passes. At the end of turn, Devon exiles his 2 creatures from his graveyard to make 2 more snakes with Farika. Devon upticks a Johnny in his main phase, only keeping 2 and bottoming the rest. And downticks Kaya to use her ultimate. With the ability on the stack, John uses Comeuppance to basically neutralize the effect, as Devon loses 12, but then gains 12 as it resolves. We then see an Archon of Justice and our Armillary Sphere before Devon passes turn. At the end of turn, John uses Aurelius Fury, losing 2 life, and deals enough damage to kill a Johnny and Kaya. John casts a Wheel of Fortune in his main phase, and the 2 discard their hands and draw a fresh 7. John then cycles Forgotten Cave to draw a card, and then resolves a Runehorn Hellkite for more wheeling action. He passes, and at the end of turn, Devon cracks the Armillary Sphere to find 2 basics, then make more snakes with Farika because he has a billion mana. Devon plays a Bloodstained Mire, losing 1 life to find his last basic, a Swamp. He then casts a Muse Vessel, which is the first time I've ever seen the card, and then still has plenty of mana to cast Identity Crisis, and targets John. John uses Wild Ricochet, losing 2 to Beseiju, to instead redirect the spell at Devon. With his own spell going to exile his hand and yard, Devon flashes in Containment Priest, and says goodbye to his hand. Devon then activates the Muse Vessel on John, who exiles a Needle Spire. Moving to combat, we see the Worldbreaker, the Primordial, and the snakes go at John. John blocks the breaker with the Hellkite, untaps the Primordial, and takes 5 from the snakes. John plays a Plains, recasts his commander, puts the boots onto them, and passes. Devin pays 3 to exile a card from John's hand, and then pays 1 to be able to cast John's Warden Power Stone. He then pays 1 more to play the Needle Spire tapped, and he swings his Snake Army at John. John untaps one of them and takes 4. John draws for turn and casts Neheb in his main phase before passing. Devin recasts Anafenza in his main phase and activates the vessel once more. John exiles a land, and we then see the snakes go at John again, who untaps 1 and takes 4. John draws and passes turn. Devin draws and uses his vessel, exiling John's Solemn Simulacrum from hand. Devin then pays 1 to cast it, but doesn't go and find a basic, knowing he has no more, and he casts Ethereal Absolution. Devin then swings the snakes and the Archon at John for 15, but John untaps the Archon and only takes 10. John draws and plays a Core Haven. At the end of turn, Devin exiles Wild Ricochet. Devin exiles John's Mana Geyser with the Vessel in his main phase, and he casts Teysa. He then moves to combat and swings with everything, putting a +1/+1 counter from Anafenza on the Archon. John untaps Pharika with the Maze and uses the Core Haven on the Archon. John then quickly realizes he's done for even with blockers, and we move to the next game. Game review time. So, I didn't give Devin credit where credit was due. He told me that he'd built Exile Tribal before the game started, and I kinda dismissed it. It seemed very powerful in this game, and a great way to shut down any kind of decks that have recursion engines with their graveyard. Steve seemed to suffer a lot from board wipes, and unfortunately with the board wipes exiling cards, he lost a lot of his critical dragons, which he could have brought back with things like Living Death or Patriarch's Bidding. I think it was pretty clear from my perspective that basically I couldn't do anything involving my graveyard, otherwise Devin or John or even Steve would have exiled something. So as you can see, I think I started the game behind everyone a little bit. I did make everyone have to earn it, and I did like the interaction that Devin used with Kaya and the exiled graveyards to kill me, which was a lot of fun to see. John suffered from drawing a few too many lands in his deck. He doesn't run a crazy amount, but unfortunately when you flood out, you flood out. And in a deck like his, where he needs to have lots of board wipes and control spells, he didn't seem to find any. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.